I wasn't supposed to be home. The Denver trip fell apart last second, client backed out, then the account manager backed out of the backup plan. We had a brief call with the VP at 5, and by 5:40, I was packed and in an Uber to the airport. The flight change was surprisingly smooth for a same-day booking. I didn't even tell Casey. Figured I'd walk through the door like a bad sitcom setup. "Honey, I'm home." And she'd either laugh or scold me for not calling first. Either way, I wanted to see the look on her face. It had been a while since I'd gotten one of those. By 9:18 p.m. I was dragging my carry-on through the front gate of our neighborhood, streetlights flickering over the sidewalk like tired eyes trying to stay awake. Our house sat at the end of the cul-de-sac, the one with the red maple in the front yard that Casey always said looked like autumn even when it wasn't. The porch light was off, which struck me as weird, but not alarming. The house looked still. Not empty, just still. I let myself in quietly, instinctively stepping around the squeaky floorboard in the entryway. You'd think after 6 years, I'd have fixed that. But there's always something else that comes first. And then I saw it. The lighting was staged. That's the word that hit me first. Staged. Just the pendant above the kitchen island was on. Everything else dark. A golden halo cast down on the marble countertop like it was being shown off in an open house. The rest of the space sat in soft, intentional shadow. Then came the smell. Not food. Not cleaning supplies. Not her lavender diffuser she always left running in the hallway. This was cologne. Sharp, expensive, and unmistakably masculine. It hit me square in the chest. I don't wear anything like that. Not even close. I own 2 bottles of aftershave, both birthday gifts from my dad, and both smell like nostalgia and barbershops. I crossed the room, every step suddenly echoing way too loud in my own ears. The sink was quiet, nothing dripping, nothing running. But there they were. 2 wine glasses. One of them still had a bead of red pooling in the base. Berg *NDY. Not Casey's usual Pinot Grigio. And definitely not from our stash. I leaned closer. Lipstick on the rim, dark. Plum red. Too heavy to be hers. Casey only ever wore soft pinks or nude shades, and even then only for weddings or client events. This one looked like it belonged to someone older. Or bolder. I opened the dishwasher. Empty. No other glasses. Just those 2 sitting in the sink, quickly rinsed but not cleaned. Like someone meant to wash them and got interrupted. My mouth was dry. I swallowed hard, stepped back, and scanned the room. On the chair near the front door, something that didn't belong. A men's windbreaker. Navy. Thin. Still had the fold lines like it had been pulled straight from a shopping bag. No tags, but no wear either. I reached out and touched it. Slightly damp. Like it had been worn outside and brought in not long ago. Strike 3. Still, I didn't want to assume. Not yet. My brain was firing off possibilities. A client visit, a neighbor, a cousin maybe. But the more I grasped, the less any of it held water. I went to the guest bathroom, door halfway closed. I nudged it open. The light flickered as it turned on. Damp towel on the rack, dark blue, not from our usual rotation. Our guest towels were light gray. This one had a hotel feel, slightly heavier, newer. And in the sink, stubble. Short, dark, coarse. Definitely not mine. I hadn't shaved in 3 days, and even if I had, I don't shed like that. This was a fresh trim, beard or neckline. My chest went tight. I backed out slowly, like I just walked in on something sacred and broken. I pulled out my phone. Smart lock app. The log lit up. The usual entries, my own code, Casey's thumbprint. Then one from last night. A new guest code. Created from Casey's phone. Used at 11:42 p.m. Someone came in. And this morning at 6:03 a.m. The garage opened remotely via Apple Watch. But not hers. The ID code didn't match. A different watch. A different Apple ID. I just stood there, staring at that screen, rereading the timestamps like they might morph into something less damning if I looked long enough. And that's when the front door opened. I turned just as Casey stepped inside, keys in one hand, a brown bag in the other. She stopped when she saw me. "Oh," she said, startled, but only for a second. I thought you were in Denver. Her voice was level. Not surprised. Not thrilled. Just neutral. Trip fell through, I said, watching her every move. She walked to the kitchen like it was any other night. Set the bag on the counter. Thai takeout. She always got Thai when I was gone. Said it was her guilty pleasure. She glanced toward the sink. I didn't say anything. Oh, that, she said quickly. The contractor came late. Garage sensors, remember? I put in the ticket last week and they finally responded, but he couldn't come until after hours. I nodded slowly. So you gave him a guest code? She opened the fridge. Yeah, safer than leaving a key. You know how you always say we should do that instead? Right? My suggestion. My idea. Turned around and used like a shield. And the garage? I asked, watching her closely. Opened from someone else's Apple Watch this morning. She paused just a beat. He must have had his tech on him. Maybe it synced with the system when he was calibrating something? From inside the garage? She shrugged. I don't know, Nate. I'm not the one who installed it. Her voice was calm, measured, practiced. I stayed quiet. She finally looked at me. You're being weird. Am I? Yes. What is this? An interrogation? She crossed her arms. I get it. You're tired, the trip collapsed, and now you're in some hypervigilant spiral, reading into nothing. I'm not reading into anything, I said, quieter now. I'm looking at what's in front of me. And spinning a story, she's H*T back. Because God forbid you trust me when something doesn't add up. You always jump to this whole detective mode. Like I have to prove I'm not hiding something every time your gut gets a twitch. I could feel the heat rising in my neck. Then prove it. She laughed once. Sharp and humorless. No, Nate. I'm not playing that game. This isn't about me. This is about you needing control because something else in your life slipped. Maybe it's work. Maybe it's your ego. But it's not me. And I'm not going to stand here and get cross-examined because you're spiraling. I looked at her and saw it clearly for the first time. She wasn't defensive. She was composed, confident, ready, too ready, like she'd rehearsed every possibility of this conversation, like she'd planned for it, like maybe this wasn't the first time. And in that silence, as she stood there sipping water from a glass that probably sat beside his earlier that day, I realized something I wasn't ready to admit out loud. She wasn't panicking because she didn't need to, because she'd already done this before. I didn't sleep that night. After she went to bed, without asking me to join her, without so much as a second glance. I stayed up on the couch, staring at the ceiling like the drywall might whisper answers. The quiet of the house was louder than anything. Every creak, every hum of the fridge, every faint breeze rattling the patio door. It all felt like proof, not of what happened, but of what had already been happening. This wasn't about a wine glass or a windbreaker. That was just the slip. The real story was older. It hit me sometime around 3 a.m. as I stared blankly at my coffee mug from the agency's holiday party 2 years ago. The one where Casey wore that green silk dress and made everyone laugh in the photo booth. Back then, she used to cling to my arm in pictures. Post them the same night. Tag me. We'd be in the frame together. Now, it had been weeks since I showed up in anything she shared. No more couple selfies. No more tagged locations. Just her latte, her spin shoes, her new plant, her favorite earrings. Me? Edited out. Quietly. It didn't start with Denver. Or that night. It started 3 months ago, when she suddenly became obsessed with early cycling classes. Casey used to hate cardio. I remember distinctly her saying, if I wanted to run in place and pay someone to yell at me, I'd just reenact high school gym. She liked yoga, bar, the occasional hike when I could coax her into one. But out of nowhere, she was up at 5:30 a.m. Gym bag packed the night before, leaving with a full face of makeup and dousing herself in that heavy perfume. Black Orchid, I think, not the airy eucalyptus body spray she used to toss in the car. This stuff lingered. Intentionally. She bought an entire wardrobe of aloe yoga sets, color-coordinated like a showroom. The same with her shoes, new Nike trainers every 2 weeks, each one squeaky clean and box fresh. I joked once that her sneakers saw more of the locker room mirror than the treadmill. She didn't laugh. And the apps. She started getting pinged by Garmin, Strava, Zwift. Her phone was always buzzing and always flipped face down. Notifications muted. When I glanced, the lock screen showed nothing. And her watch. Always on, always connected. Yet she'd miss my calls and text me hours later with, "Sorry, left my phone in the car." Except she never went anywhere without it. One morning, I spotted the name, Dylan H. A coworker, I think. Project manager. Nothing remarkable. I'd met him once at her office Christmas mixer. The kind of guy who always had a fresh fade and a perfect watch tan. He'd said bro too much. Nothing threatening back then. Now, he was under every one of her ride logs. Kudos. Let's go. Beast mode. Comments with emojis. Inside jokes in the replies. Sometimes just a fire emoji. Or a wink. I'd asked her about him once, casually. "Dylan's on your fitness feed a lot." She shrugged. "Yeah, he's kind of a fitness nut. He started a group challenge." That was all. Not defensive. Not nervous. Just matter of fact. But something about it lodged in my head like a stone in a shoe. Tiny. Constant. Irritating. Then came the Thursdays. She started having regular strategy offsites. The kind that didn't show up on her shared work calendar. Just gray blocks. I checked once when she left her laptop open on the couch. No meeting link. No Zoom. No agenda. Just, client discovery day. I noticed the credit card charges. Always Thursdays. A studio downtown called Clay and Cabernet. It sounded like a boutique paint and sip class. I looked it up. Turns out it's exactly that. Small pottery studio. Couples-only bookings on weekday nights. The website even said, "Great for date night." I asked her about it, trying not to sound like I was grilling her. "Oh yeah," she said, sipping wine. "It's for team bonding." The women on the team wanted to do something creative. All women. Well, mostly. Dylan comes sometimes too. He's basically one of the girls. Of course he is. Twice I drove past Harbor 9. There's a micro-hotel near downtown. Barely bigger than a duplex. Industrial chic. Lots of glass. Private entrances. We'd passed it on a walk once and she said, "That's where people go when they don't want to be seen." She laughed when she said it, but the tone stuck with me. Now, twice in 2 months I saw her car parked out front. Once at 6:20 p.m. on a Thursday. Once on a Saturday morning, right after she told me she had a hair appointment in Palo Alto. Both times I said nothing. I just watched. I rationalized. There could be 1,000 reasons. Then I caught her by the Lark. It's a speakeasy-style bar near the financial district. Hard to find unless you're looking for it. I was meeting a client down the street, glanced across the sidewalk, and there she was, sitting outside, laughing at something over a cocktail. Dylan again. His face turned toward hers, just slightly closer than it should have been. It didn't look like a team brainstorm. That night, I asked how her client dinner went. She smiled. Uneventful. They flaked last second. I just grabbed a drink with some of the team. Her lies weren't flamboyant. They were subtle. Gentle edits to the truth. Shaped to fit. Even her tone changed over time. Less affection. Less teasing. Conversations became transactional, reminders, logistics, plans. She stopped asking about my projects. She used to lean against the counter while I talked through campaign pitches. Now she nodded without hearing. We were drifting, and she was steering the boat. I checked our photos, her camera roll, our shared album. I hadn't shown up in her social feed since July. No anniversary post. No vacation throwbacks. Not even a candid. Just her selfies, food, coffee, gym snaps, views from rooftops I didn't recognize. It had all been slipping away, quietly, behind a layer of curated normalcy. I used to pride myself on noticing details. I work in strategy. Behavioral patterns are my thing. But here, in my own life, I missed it. Or maybe I saw it and refused to name it. Because naming it meant breaking something. Something I'd built. something I'd believed in. But now I had the timeline, the patterns, the sequence, and I couldn't unsee it. Her new routines weren't about fitness or empowerment or self-care. They were about separation, and secrecy, and someone else. I don't know what I expected when I decided to find out. Closure, maybe. A way to tell myself I was wrong. But by that Saturday, I wasn't looking for reassurance anymore. I was looking for confirmation. For something solid. Something that didn't move when I touched it. Casey said she was having a girls' night at Tessa's. I nodded, pretending to scroll through something on my phone. Have fun, I said, smiling the way you do when you already know the script. She kissed my cheek like it was just another night. Light, distant. Then she was gone. At 10:14 p.m. I checked her location. She still had sharing enabled from months ago, something she'd probably forgotten about. The blue dot wasn't in Willow Glen where Tessa lived. It was downtown by the micro-hotel Harbor 9. I stared at the map for a full minute, zooming in and out as if maybe it was a glitch. Then I opened Find My again. The dot hadn't moved. Still there. I sat very still, heart pounding so hard it felt mechanical. Every instinct screamed to confront her right then, to call, to text, to drive down and make a scene. But there's a kind of paralysis that comes with truth. The mind wants to act. The body refuses. Finally, I grabbed my keys. The drive took 26 minutes. I remember because I counted. Every red light felt personal. The streets were slick from a misty drizzle, the city's neon bleeding across the asphalt. I parked across the street, engine off, watching the narrow glass facade of the hotel through the windshield. Harbor 9 didn't look like a hotel. It looked like a design catalog. Warm lighting. No front signage except a small metallic 9. The kind of place meant for discretion. I waited. At 11:03, the main doors opened. Dylan came out first. Even from across the street, I recognized him. The same guy from her office mixer, but this time without the polite smile or the suit jacket. He was dressed casual, gray hoodie, dark jeans, baseball cap low. He stopped just under the awning, pulling out his phone, glancing both ways before walking off toward the side lot. 2 minutes later, Casey. She exited through the side door. No luggage. Hair down, jacket zipped up halfway, the kind of casual that takes effort. She scanned the street once, then turned in the opposite direction Dylan had gone. I snapped a photo, not because I needed to prove it to anyone else, because I needed to prove it to myself. I followed her from a distance, keeping to the shadows, the drizzle masking my footsteps. She crossed to the next block, got into her car, and drove off. I didn't follow. There was nothing more to see. Instead, I turned back toward the hotel. Inside, the lobby was small, mostly glass and wood. The receptionist looked up with a practiced smile. Evening. Checking in? Actually, I said. My wife stayed here earlier. I think she left something behind. Room number 512. He glanced at the monitor, typing. One moment. He didn't even question it. Maybe he recognized the surname from the booking. Rowan. Her work name. She always signed that way for clients, never in personal life. Yes, he said after a pause. Ms. Rowan. Checked in at 7:42 p.m. One night stay. Departure registered at 10:59. No baggage. No baggage, I repeated quietly. He nodded. Just 2 keycards issued. Would you like me to check if anything was left? No, that's okay, I said. My voice sounded calm, but my chest felt hollow. Could you print the receipt? He hesitated. Are you listed on the reservation? I'm her husband. He blinked. For a split second, sympathy flickered across his face. Then he printed it. When he handed me the page, I saw it, black and white. Room 512. One night. 2 keycards. Lobby bar charge. 2 glasses of Pinot Noir. The same Berg *NDY stain on the wine glass at home. That was it. The clean line between suspicion and certainty. Driving back, I didn't play music. Didn't think. Just watched the city blur into something colorless. The wipers kept time with my pulse, steady, mechanical. I wasn't crying. I wasn't angry, just numb. The strange part about discovering betrayal is that it doesn't land all at once. Comes in waves. First, disbelief. Then this eerie clarity. Like your brain starts labeling everything in sight. That's real, that's fake, that's over. When I pulled into the driveway, her car was already there. The house looked exactly as it always did. Quiet, curated, pretending to be innocent. Inside, she was sitting on the couch, laptop open, pretending to scroll through emails. "Hey," she said casually, glancing up. "You're out late." "So are you," I said. She smiled faintly. "Tess's girls' night. Lost track of time." I nodded, hanging my coat. "Fun night." "Yeah, low-key. We watched a movie." I looked at her, at how easily the lie slid from her mouth. How smooth it sounded. No twitch, no stutter, no guilt. Just choreography. "Case?" I said finally. "Can I ask you something?" She glanced up again, curious, still calm. "Sure. Who's Dylan to you?" For the first time, something flickered. A blink too slow. Pause too long. But then, smile again. "Coworker." "Why?" I shrugged. "Just wondering. You mention him a lot." "Do I?" she said lightly. "He's on my project team. We spend a lot of time together. That's all." "That's all," I repeated. Her tone turned careful. "Are you asking me if there's something going on? Because, Nate, if this is another one of your—" "Forget it," I interrupted softly. "Just curious." She went back to her laptop, but the air had shifted. I could feel it, the tiniest current of tension. Maybe she felt it too. Later that night, when she finally went upstairs, I sat at the kitchen counter with the printed hotel receipt lying in front of me. The paper was slightly damp from my hands. I stared at it for so long the numbers started to blur. There was no more guessing, no more what-ifs. It was there in time-stamped precision. 7:42 check-in, 2 keycards, 2 glasses, 10:59 check-out. Facts don't ask for belief. They just exist. I slipped the paper into a folder with the photo I'd taken and the SmartLock screenshot *TS. My own private archive. As I sat there, the house silent around me, I realized something small but terrifying. Even with all the evidence, I still loved her. I hated that I did. It wasn't the kind of love that asks for forgiveness. It was the kind that hurts to carry but refuses to die. I looked up the stairs, half expecting her to appear. She didn't. Maybe she was asleep. Maybe she was lying awake, rehearsing another version of the truth. Either way, the night had already decided for us. Because from now on, everything between us would be filtered through that receipt. The moment it stopped being a marriage and became an investigation. The morning after Harbor 9, I didn't speak. Casey made coffee. I listened to it percolate while I sat in silence at the breakfast table, phone in hand, pretending to scroll. She wore a loose gray hoodie and leggings, the ones with the mesh cutouts she usually reserved for gym days. Hair up, makeup minimal, skin clean, scrubbed. Maybe. She moved around the kitchen like nothing was wrong. "You sleep okay?" she asked, sliding a mug in front of me. I nodded. Didn't look up. My throat was dry. "I was thinking we could go to that fall market today. You know, the one with the cider and live music?" Her voice was light, hopeful, falsely casual. "Could be nice." Reset. I just stared into my coffee. Said nothing. After a beat, she walked off, muttering something about laundry. By that point, I had already transferred the Harbor 9 receipt and photos to a private folder on my personal cloud drive. But I needed more. Not just for myself. I needed a record, undeniable, unavoidable, complete picture. Something no apology or rewrite could walk back. So I dug. There was an old MacBook buried in the storage bin in the guest room closet. One she used back in 2019, long before her work laptop replaced it. I wasn't sure if it even booted, but it did eventually. The keyboard was sticky, the screen dim, but it loaded, and it was still signed in to her iCloud. At first, I didn't know what I was even looking for. Then I checked the calendar. Her digital planner was full of gray blocks. They weren't titled. Just busy. No event details. No invites. But under iCloud settings, there was a category labeled Strategy Offsite, color-coded light gray. I selected it, and the calendar lit up like a map of her movements. Thursdays. Every single Thursday for the past 10 weeks had a block. Some started late afternoon. Others spanned the entire evening. The same nights with charges from Clay and Cabernet. A quick spotlight search pulled receipts from her downloads folder. PDF confirmations with her name. KCL. Rowan. Same work surname as the hotel. The classes were listed as couples Clay nights, 2-seat booking. Not a single one mentioned a group rate. Then the texts. I didn't even have to search for Dylan. He was pinned. Their messages weren't blatant. They knew better. But they were in asterisk mate in a different way, comfort, shorthand, sarcasm. Things said between people who didn't need to explain themselves. You always know how to distract me, upside down face. Don't forget your red set tomorrow. No mercy on the Hill's skull. 512 again? Her reply, classic never fails. The room from Harbor 9. There was also a message from 3 weeks ago. If he finds out, I'm toast. Can't mess this up. And Dylan's response. He won't. We're ghosts. Ghosts. It made my blood run cold. By noon, I had built out a private folder titled Rowan Archive. It contained SmartLock logs, exported as CSVs, screensh *TS of gray calendar blocks, receipts from the Lark and Harbor 9, PDF confirmations from Clay and Cabernet, text logs between her and Dylan, my own photo of their exit from the hotel. And then Dan texted me. Dan lives 3 houses down. Retired San Jose PD, now spends his time tinkering with drones and watching neighborhood squirrels. He's the guy who knows who leaves their trash cans out too long. He'd seen me pacing the sidewalk at 7 a.m. and sent a "you good?" text. I responded with a vague, "Hey, weird question. Your cameras ever catch our driveway?" He replied 10 minutes later with, "I got you. Give me an hour." At 2:46 p.m. He handed me a flash drive in a plastic snack bag. Said nothing except, "You didn't get it from me." I thanked him with a 6-pack of his favorite microbrew. Back at my desk, I plugged it in and watched. The footage was from a motion sensor cam on his second-floor deck. It covered a sliver of our side yard, just enough to glimpse the guest gate and the base of the driveway. The first clip was timestamped 1:12 p.m. 2 Fridays ago. Dylan. He arrived on a black road bike. Helmet, sunglasses, windbreaker. Same one I'd found slung over the chair. He paused, checked his phone, then walked it around the side of the house. Out of frame. Timestamp. 1:12 p.m. The next clip. 2:44 p.m. Same day. He exits. Alone. Second visit. 11:38 a.m. The following Thursday. Same route. This time he carries a black duffel. He leaves at 1:02 p.m. Sweat on his collar. Hair damp. I stared at the screen, hand gripping the mouse tight enough to whiten my knuckles. That was the final layer. I backed everything up. Twice. Stored one copy in a locked note on my phone. Another in a secure cloud folder with a password only I knew. If anything happened, I wanted it known. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't insecure. I was observant. Then I changed the passwords. All of them. The shared Apple ID? Gone. Bank logins? Updated. Home automation? Reset. I deleted Casey's phone from our thermostat, removed her access to our Nest cameras, and disabled guest codes on the smart lock. She wouldn't notice immediately, but she'd know soon enough. I moved into the guest room that night. Quietly. No speech. No drama. I took a pillow, a charger, and one blanket. She asked nothing. For 3 days, we lived in a strange limbo. Me drifting from room to room, her watching from the corners of her eyes but never asking why. Maybe she thought it was stress. Maybe she was waiting for the confrontation. But I wasn't giving her that. I was gathering. Then came the twist I didn't expect. I dropped my keys between the seat and the console in my car. While reaching for them, I found something odd wedged under the driver's seat. Small, round, smooth. I pulled it out. An Apple AirTag, wrapped in electrical tape. My blood ran cold. I didn't own any AirTags. We talked about getting them for luggage once, but never did. This one was live. I peeled back the tape. Faint initials etched on the underside. C. R. Casey Rowan. She'd been tracking me. I immediately checked the serial and pinged it via my phone. It was registered to her Apple ID. So she wasn't just hiding things. She was watching me. Maybe she thought I'd start to follow her. Maybe she was tracking my routines to stay ahead. Either way, it changed the equation. I wasn't just being betrayed. I was being monitored. I reset my phone's location permissions, disabled Bluetooth tracking, and created a new Apple ID. I deleted all shared devices, installed a VPN, locked down everything. Then I called an attorney. Not for a lawsuit. Not yet. Just a consultation. The lawyer's office smelled like old paper and lemon sanitizer. The receptionist didn't ask questions. Just handed me a clipboard and said, "Fill this out." I sat across from a woman named Shannon Lee, whose bio said she specialized in high-conflict marital dissolutions. She had silver-rimmed glasses and a calm way of talking, like nothing could surprise her anymore. "I'm not here to burn it down," I told her. "I just want options." She nodded. "And clarity, which is exactly what you'll get." I showed her the folder, the receipts, the messages, the AirTag. She didn't flinch, just leaned forward and said, "Nate, I think you already know what you're going to do. What you need from me is how to do it cleanly." She was right. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just walked back to my car with the same numb focus I'd felt since Harbor 9. That night, I didn't say a word to Casey. I just sat on the guest bed, stared at the spinning ceiling fan, and marked the line that had now been crossed twice. Once in a hotel room, and once inside my own car. The agency's annual party was set in a converted waterfront loft. High ceilings, string lights, and the kind of curated buzz meant to make people forget they were still tethered to work. I hadn't planned on going. But that week, after everything, it started to feel like the right place to draw a line. Not quietly, visibly. I wore a black shirt and kept the sleeves rolled. No tie, no ring. The air was cool that night, the kind of cold that felt earned. I parked 3 blocks away, needing the walk to calibrate my expression. Neutral, steady, undeniable. Inside, the loft pulsed with soft bass and dim chatter. There was a bar on one end, food stations in the middle, and a small stage framed by floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the water. A photographer floated from group to group, catching candids, the kind that would later appear in company recaps, carefully curated to capture culture. I scanned the crowd, and then I saw her. Casey stood near the cocktail station in a deep green wrap dress. The same shade she wore 2 years ago when we slow danced under market lights in Sonoma. Her hair was curled, her heels high, her lipstick dark. Not the shade she kissed me with in the mornings. The shade from the wine glass in the sink. But that wasn't what stopped me. It was who she was with. Not Dylan. A new face. Younger. Probably a junior staffer. Broad shoulders, nervous hands. She stood close. Too close. Laughing, leaning in, placing her hand briefly on his arm as he spoke. At one point, she brushed an invisible thread from his lapel and held his gaze a beat too long. The photographer noticed. Snapped a sh*T. I watched from across the room, expression blank. She hadn't seen me yet. When I did walk over, I didn't rush. I cut through the room with the calm of someone who already knew how this ended. As I reached the bar, I nodded to the bartender. "Red, whatever's open." He poured a glass of Cabernet into something tall and crystal clear. I swirled it once, slowly, watching the legs run down the side of the glass like time. Then I stepped behind her. She turned, mid-laugh, eyes catching mine over her shoulder. Her smile faltered for just a second, just long enough for me to know she hadn't expected me to show. "Not here." "Nate," she said, voice lifting. "Hey, I didn't know you were coming. I decided last minute." She gestured to the man beside her. This is Tyler. He's one of our new data analysts, just joined from Chicago. Tyler smiled, offering a hand. Nice to meet you, sir. Likewise. I shook it briefly, then turned to Casey. Having fun? She shrugged, coy. It's a party. I took a sip of the wine, set the glass on the bar, and then I reached into my coat pocket, slipped off my wedding ring, and dropped it clean into her wine glass. The sound was unmistakable, a sharp metallic chime, loud enough to catch nearby heads. The glass trembled on the bar top, red liquid sloshing gently. Her eyes widened. Tyler looked confused. The photographer, 20 feet away, lifted his camera again. Maybe drawn by the shift in atmosphere, maybe just good instinct. He captured it. She stared down at the glass. You left this, I said quietly. Thought you might want it back. There was no anger in my voice, just punctuation. She said nothing. Her mouth opened slightly, whether to speak or just breathe. I couldn't tell. I turned and walked away, leaving the ring submerged in her wine like a sunken artifact. The bar fell silent for a breath. Then the room swallowed the moment and resumed its hum, as if pretending nothing had happened. Outside, the air hit hard, sharp, and clean. I walked back toward the street, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. Not relieved, but anchored. She would know now, so would everyone, that the silence wasn't ignorance, that the space I'd given her wasn't permission, that I saw it all, that I chose the moment. The next morning, I woke up before the alarm. My phone had 4 unread messages from her. None opened. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and checked the agency's shared drive. They'd already uploaded the first batch of event photos. There, in one of the thumbnails, was the sh*T, Casey. Frozen mid-turn, face caught somewhere between smile and shock. Tyler, eyebrows raised. In front of them, on the bar, a wine glass with a silver band at the bottom. I downloaded it, saved it in the folder with everything else, titled it The Line. Casey's agency opens an internal review after the party photo circulates. A private investigator hired by Nate delivers synchronized smart lock data, hotel logs, and receipts linking her to Dylan. Then, the second twist, hotel loyalty points auto-credited to Casey's name for weekend suites. Leadership takes notice. Casey packs and leaves. Nate changes the locks, moves out temporarily, and cuts all contact. Nate assembles the full dossier. 9 confirmed nights, synced timestamps, receipts, and third-party video. There are no missing pieces. No more bargaining. He contacts his lawyer, resumes training, and starts therapy. No drama. No confrontation. Just quiet, deliberate closure. The marriage ends without pleas or fights. He chooses truth, routine, and a life rebuilt around silence and self-respect.